Welcome to Conversation Starters at the Menard Family Initiative. Our topic today is personal finance with Dennis Vogel, President and CEO of Citizen State Bank. Now here's our host, Dr. Adam Hofer.
Greetings and welcome to another episode of Conversation Starters at the Menard Family Initiative. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing our special guest co-host for today, Lisa Klein.
Thank you so much, Adam. I'm excited to be here and excited about our show today. I would like to welcome Dennis Vogel. He is a UWL alum, first in 97 when he majored in finance, and then again in 2002 when he earned his MBA. Thank you so much for talking with us today, Dennis.
My pleasure.
Well, we are going to start off and ask you to tell us a little bit about your background and then about Citizens State Bank.
Yeah, so real briefly, I'm originally from Manitowoc, Wisconsin, and I often tell this story when I'm trying to recruit people of how I fell in love with lacrosse. I had no intention of really coming here, but when I made that campus visit, I just fell in love with lacrosse, and I think many have the same story. So that's how I ended up here on the other side of the state from Manitowoc, and I've never left. So yes, I got my undergrad in 97. A year prior to that summer, I was fortunate enough to start an internship at another community bank. And that's where my banking career started. And actually, I had an interview this morning, and I said the last time I interviewed for a job was in 96. So I've been very fortunate to have that, because many cannot say that. So that was my career in banking. I worked myself up there and I was a VP business banking. And then in 2005, I went off and started my own bank, Citizen State Bank of La Crosse here. I got two partners in that. And when I started Citizens, I really wanted to create something that was completely different, unlike anything in banking, because most think of banking and insurance as very boring. And to be honest with you, it very much is the case. So I wanted to create something that was so dynamic outside of the box. And that's what we've done. And we've been one of the fastest growing banks in the state of Wisconsin, one of the top community banks in the entire country year after year. And it's all because of our philosophy of how we do things differently. Again, I just ask people, what's it like to walk into your bank or credit union? Probably pretty boring, a place you don't want to go. When you walk into Citizens, you'll hear rock and roll music. Friday afternoon, you're going to hear hip hop. We have a full cafe. You can come through our drive-thru and get any beverage off the cafe menu. So it's all about the experience and value-added services. And so you just think about the amount of money that people spend by going to their local coffee shop. They no longer have to do that. So we have so many stories of where, because of what we've done, has put a lot of money back into our customers' pockets. So again, and also our culture is dynamic. We're known to have one of the best cultures in the industry, and we also recently identified as one of the best banks to work for in the industry. So we're very proud of our success. It didn't happen overnight. A lot of little things, great people, and I'm just very fortunate to love what I do. And I always stress to people, you don't do it for the money. You got to find something you're very passionate for. And at this point, I don't do it for the money, but I do it because the how we impact our people and the community. And that's, if you find that, you're successful.
Well, thanks, Dennis. I asked our audience for some questions that they might have for you regarding financial myths or theories or just anything financial related that they would like to hear your thoughts on. Would you mind if we do a couple rapid fire questions?
Absolutely.
All right. First question, is all debt bad?
I think you can't say all debt is bad. There's a balance in there. And I think each individual's situation is different. I think it's important in our company, we're big on goals. And I don't think it's any different from an individual standpoint when it comes to what are your life goals? What do you want to achieve? And so if you understand what your goals are, then you can back into what's the right amount of debt for you and your family. And obviously, debt has some advantages, tax deductible, but at the same time, you don't want too much debt. There's a fine line there. I'm big on maximizing your debt in your home because, for example, right now, you can get a 30-year fixed rate at 2.5%, and that's tax deductible. You're not going to find anything different. So I think about when I graduated from college. Yes, I could have bought a home and gotten some debt. And I took the difference, what I was saving in rent, and invested that. Because again, if I can, do that, I'm already planning for the future. But back to a home loan, when you do that, if you can lock it in for 2.5%, you can take the money and invest that versus paying that debt off. you're going to make more than 2.5% in the market. So you definitely want to utilize the debt in your home. Obviously, on an automobile too, you can get very low interest rates on that. The problem is when you start racking up credit and your credit score starts decreasing, that becomes more costly. If you start racking up credit card debt, that becomes costly. And that's just a spiral that you can't get out of. So definitely I would stay away from credit card debt. But when you think about a home loan, I think that makes a lot of sense. And obviously an auto loan, when you can a lot of times lock in for 2-3% on an auto loan, I think that's okay. But everybody's situation's a little bit different, and it all depends on what your goals are. Because some of the most wealthy people in the world have the most debt in the world. You have to leverage that.
I think that's a great way to conceptualize debt and to think about the relative trade-offs there of what you're going to do with your money and what you can do with debt. So, second question here, do I need insurance? We realize that there are so many different kinds of insurance: home, life, auto, disability. Can you give us a perspective on how to think about insurance?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many different types of insurance, and here again, everybody's situation is a little bit different. But I think a couple of standards are you have to have insurance on your home. Bank's going to require that. Most cannot absorb that if you did not have insurance in your house and it burns down, people don't have those cash reserves. You've got to, protect yourself. Same thing with auto insurance. You basically have to have that. Now when you think about, life insurance and those types of products, especially for a college student, does it make the most sense that, you don't have those resources right now? And I know it's very cheap to get a term life policy, but probably it's not where I would be allocating my dollars. But again, everybody's situation is different. But as you get into your career and have a family, yes, definitely I think you need to have some life insurance to protect your family, your wife or your husband, and your children. Now, there's other life insurance products that become investment products. I think I see sometimes younger individuals might have a friend that got started in the insurance industry and they're really trying to push it, but they're really not thinking about, really, does this make sense for me right now at this time? And so I would not put all my money into something like that, but that's just my personal opinion. And also, sometimes disability insurance is more important than life insurance because it's more likely to have a claim on disability than there is in life insurance. And a lot of people don't really think about that. Because again, if you have a disability now, you can't do your job anymore, you're still living and you have no money coming in. So it's very important to be thinking about once you get in your career and a family. I think that's where things really change, is when you settle down and have a family and children, you got to be looking more seriously at those products.
Question 3, is buying a home better than renting?
It depends. Again, I kind of alluded to this, that, when I graduated, I rented it and I paid very, very low rent. So I was not throwing money away because I was paying less than what the interest would have been on a home loan. So I was not throwing my money away, and I took that difference and I was investing it in the market. Well, it got to a point though, I want to settle down and have a home, that I wanted to have a nicer place. Well, for that to happen, I'd have to spend more money. Then it became that I would be throwing money away. And also in a time when interest rates are very low, it's a good time to take care of that. But now if I'm thinking about maybe moving out of the area in the next couple of years, or I feel like my life could be changing in terms of marriage or kids and I'll have to move in the next couple of years, it may not make some sense because you have to pay commissions. And also, what is the market going to be like in a couple of years? Right now, for example, the market is very hot. Every bubble bursts, and we're at that top point that valuations are going to be coming down. So say if you bought a home right now and you're going to be moving in 2 or 3 years, I would say do not be buying because you're most likely going to lose money because of the fluctuation in the market and also having to pay commission. So I would recommend renting in that situation.
So I'm seeing a bit of a theme develop here that there can be a real value in increasing your financial IQ, right? Mm-hmm. That there's some real opportunity to, I guess, increase your financial well-being by doing a little bit of research, becoming a little better educated in these products and these markets and these things that we're talking about. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think, a lot of people, I'm big on mentors, having someone to talk to, and this is no different because a lot of people have never gone through this. And, compared to like when I went to school, I was very fiscally responsible. I did not have any money. We were very poor. Unfortunately, I think a lot of the students nowadays haven't had to go through that same difficulty. And so they don't value the dollar as much, and they're not as serious about budgets. And we see that from students that are graduating, having a more difficult time managing their personal expenses because they're not aware and they just always put it on the card. Even with my own children, I talked to my wife about this. They have a hard time really truly understanding because they just see it go on a plastic card. It's really different now. And so I think that's really changed, unfortunately, and that's going to hurt people because if you don't have good credit, that potentially could hurt you on your next job. So it really does have an impact, and it affects your livelihood and your happiness.
All right, next question from our audience. Should I always buy a used car?
There again, I'll say it really depends. Me personally, I never buy a brand new vehicle. Now my wife, she bought a brand new vehicle. We have a different perspective. I look at dollars and cents and how much that depreciates the minute it drives off the car lot. My wife doesn't care about that. My wife cares about that. She doesn't want to deal with hassles of the vehicle breaking down. Where's that expense going to come from? Now, from a Finance 101 standpoint, I'd say I wouldn't buy a new vehicle. However, but I understand everybody's goals are differently. They might not have that ability to, they can't have that surprise $1,000 expense in 8 months. So maybe they need to look at something new that has a warranty. And again, everybody's situation is a little bit different, and I don't think there's a right or wrong answer there, but from a financial standpoint, you're losing money and throwing money away by buying a brand new vehicle every time.
All right, last question in this rapid fire round here. Is the stock market too risky to invest in?
I don't know if it's too risky, but it's risky. I think you got to understand what your goals are. And again, if you're obviously someone that's younger, risk adverse, I wouldn't worry one bit about that. I think that's very important that when, you get that first job out of college, think about that. But I talk to some and they say, well, I don't have that money to put 3 or 4% down or into the stock market. Well, if you're missing out on opportunities where the company you're working for is willing to match that, you're really going to, really look back and really regret that you didn't do that. Because I remember myself in that same situation when I got my first job, didn't have a lot of money. But you know what? You don't notice that 3-4%. I think it's just like donating to charity. If you take it off your check, you're never going to notice. But now I see the benefits of it. And too many individuals wait way too long to start investing. And yes, you could say the stock market is very hot right now, so you don't want to try to time it. Some people say, well, I'm going to wait till it pulls back. Well, I personally can tell you that I've had money sitting on the sidelines here for the last, I think, 4 or 5 months, waiting for that pullback. Well, now looking back, I probably should have taken that money and thrown more money in. So it's very difficult that someone is not watching every day to try to time that. And if you look at the history of the stock market, you're going to get a return. So I don't think it's too risky. I think there's certain stocks that are too risky, but again, they're being aligned with someone that knows what they're talking about, I think is very, very important.
All right, Dennis, let's say that someone is watching and says, I want to improve my finances and I want to start right now. What is step 1 for them?
First, what are your goals? Again, it goes back to that. What do you want to accomplish? And I think also too, what electronics and technology have been very good for some things. However, when it comes to individual finances, I think it's actually hurt because so many people do not balance their checkbook anymore. They have no idea. They look on their app and things have gotten more timely, but that one check they sent out, they forgot about. So you see this consistency and the lack of responsibility. So I would always recommend, I think actually I'm old school, that when I was kind of going through that process, I had a notebook. Every week I sat down and I went through, and I think that makes you more accountable. And also, again, having someone that makes you accountable. In our organization, again, we're big on mentors. Have someone that's checking in with you because there's going to be times like, oh, I got money now, I don't have to watch it close. And all of a sudden, oh, I didn't realize that. But again, start planning, putting money in investments. You always want to have a little savings. Cash is king. You never know what's going to happen. So the sooner you can start that, the better. I know many people have, done the Dave Ramsey program. It's been very good for some. I think there's some really good things in there. There's some things maybe I don't agree with. But everybody's a little bit different. You got to find what works for them. And some people just are not very good when it comes to personal finances. And I think you got to acknowledge that and make sure you find someone to keep you accountable because that's going to affect you the rest of your life. I talked about credit and the stresses of collectors calling. You want to get on board as quickly as possible before it gets really bad. And I think, college grads sometimes think, I'll just worry about it later. And it can be catastrophic for them.
Now, you've mentioned this, that, people are in different financial situations and they're at different stages of life. And you've given us some great tips and examples of where people can start. But is there one overarching goal that really can help all people in any stage of life to help them put themselves in the best financial situation?
Don't live over your means. We see it every day. And perspective has changed in terms of everybody trying to keep up with the Joneses. And I'll just say that, people that have $200 cell phone bills out there, $200 and some dollars are paying a direct TV, but yet they can't put food on the table or make their monthly car payment. We see it every day when we look through that. And they have prioritized the things that should not be the priority, the disposable items they feel like they have to have. Again, I grew up very poor. Food stamps, welfare, that was never even a thought of having those bells and whistles. But society has changed. So I think you just got to live within your means. And if you're getting $100, don't spend $100. Build that cushion in there, because eventually you could lose that job, and you think about what's happening right now or what's going to happen next year in the economy, it's not going to be good. And so a lot of people are unfortunately going to file bankruptcy because they did not plan well enough. So it's going to be very difficult.
I have to tell you, I love that answer. That was a great answer. What else would you like to discuss that we haven't asked?
I really don't know. What else is at the top of your mind?
Well, that's a great question. We do have some, 4 questions that we're asking all of our guests. And the first one is, what is one reading that you would recommend to all of us, and why?
I've got a couple of them. So we're big on books. In our organization, we have a full library that when you start, you probably read 5 books in the first couple of months. But one of those, I think, would be Rhinoceros Success. That's the one I have when I start teaching my sales training class that I have all of my employees read. And it's really based on, sales and being successful. But even if you're not going to be a salesperson, it teaches you, if you want to be successful and get ahead, it's going to outline some things that are very important. It's very black and white. Now, just like any book like this, I think there's some messages in there that I don't agree with. There's some extreme stuff in there, but I think it hits it to the point of what you need to do. That would be one book. And then also another book would be How to Think Like the Boss. Every one of our employees, when in the first couple of months, reads that. It's very to the point. It's an old book, actually, I think from the early 80s. And it's point blank. What you need to do to get to the top. It talks about staying out of the gossip and all the little things that you think are important or which are very important to get to the top. And the last thing I would just add that in terms of if you want to really have a successful career, I always get asked about this in presentations. Yes, you can go to school and get that, your academics, you can work hard, but the number one thing is attitude. Attitude will take you so far. And I look back in my career and I would say that's the single most important thing that I've had. I was not the smartest, but I would work very hard and I had the right attitude. I learned from my mistakes. And that's why in our organization, we hire on attitude versus intelligence, which is really different than most banks. But I think that's why we've been so successful, that if you have the right attitude and you want it, you're going to go get it. Even if you have the book smarts and that you're so intelligent, if you don't have that right attitude, it's going to make it very difficult for you.
What innovation are you most looking forward to?
Well, I think, in our industry, technology is huge, the fintech. And so we're already kind of referred to that in terms of community banking, we're on the cutting edge. And so we are continuously, daily looking at how we can really consolidate a lot of those apps, because we have a lot of apps, for different things. And so we're excited about that. The challenge with that, though, like I said, there's good and all bad and bad and all good, is that we lose that personal connection with our clients. And that's very important and part of the citizen's experience. And that's why, when people think about banking, they think it's just a bank, it's on my phone. And so how do we compete against that in the future and really make sure we don't lose our competitive advantage?
Is there an innovation that you are personally working on?
Well, one of the things that, we have the coffee in our office, and that was originally just in La Crosse, where we have a full-fledged cafe. We just, in the last week here, rolled that out to all of our offices. And that took some work, because it's not easy to do that. And how do you do that through the drive-through and make sure the staff is trained? So that's very important. But again, the things that we're working on right now are pretty much technology-based outside of that, and how we can become more efficient and deliver a product that's on the cutting edge for our customers.
Well, last question from us. What should we be discussing more?
Again, that's a tough one, but I guess I'll just give a little commercial here to, banking. Again, I talk about people think a bank is just a bank, and people bank where their parents banked or they're back in their community. And, we talk about all the things that we do that are so unique. And that's why, people think a bank is just a bank until they bank at Citizens. And that's why we don't ever lose a customer. It's because of what we do to take care of them. And we have customers all over the country that do all their banking with us, whether it's in California, Florida. And you think about what really can help you going forward is being aligned with really a bank that's going to help you. Because there's going to be situations where you might be in a pinch, but who's going to respond to you and take care of you? Yes, you might not need them right now, but at some point you will need a bank. And I just think about right now with the interest rates being so low, there's some banks that are not even are calling people back that are asking about a home loan. Do you want to be aligned with a bank like that when you're in maybe a stressful situation that you need your help? They won't even get back to you. So I just really think about your banking relationship and how that really can be a key part of your future after you graduate from college, because there are many opportunities out there. And I will just say the number one reason people don't switch banks is because of the hassle. And I'm proud to say that at Citizens, we do all the work for you. So you want to find Citizens or a bank that will do the work for you because you're too busy to deal with that, and you don't have to be with a bank that won't take care of you anymore.
Oh, Dennis, thank you so much. You have provided all of us with some great advice, some excellent tips. Speaking for myself, I've learned a lot today. So we want to say thank you for your time. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Dennis.